Not gonna lie, man. I was waiting for you to cut it off early again. Catch me completely off guard.
Oh, I know. No, that was all. I'm just kidding. Okay.
What's up, Nerfherders? Welcome back
What's
to
up?
the show. We're here again. We've got some Oscar talk, which I mean, who really cares about that? And then The Last of Us, which we all care about. Honestly, I mean, that's how it really actually goes. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing. How are you?
I am stoked for this weekend.
Oh yeah, what do you got going on this weekend?
Oh, geez. I mean, nothing with friends out of town. Fuck that. So any Nerfherders you watch, either now or in the coming days, if you're going to be at Planet Comic-Con, you can find us. We will be there. Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City. We will be there all 3 days, and you can run amongst us and the booming celebrities that'll be there. And I will probably once again spend an irresponsible amount of money on trinkets and things that I don't need, which is what you're supposed to do at cons. So I'm pretty excited. And then we're gonna hawk a bunch of Josh's books. We're gonna make a bunch of money for him.
Yeah.
And then he's gonna.
He's
gonna run off of the show because he doesn't need us anymore.
Speaking of, I ordered a bunch of books. I was like, oh shit, I should probably get some books for this. And
yeah, probably.
They were supposed to come in 4 boxes. 2 boxes came over the weekend. The other 2 were supposed to come today. When you order books from Amazon, they always do a great job. They pack them up. They put little, paper in there to make sure it's not bumping around. It comes in real neat boxes. That's how the first 2 came. And then today I get home and there's this clusterfuck of a box on our front door that is giant. It says Team Lift. There's a sticker that says Team Lift. And there's all this packing tape wrapped around it. And I'm like, well, that's not the box that Amazon sent. So I dragged this thing into my house, and there are 60 books that, like, the first 2 boxes must have broke. And then they just took all 60 books and just threw them into this box. Didn't stack them. Didn't try to pack them neatly. I mean, there were books going all different ways, bending each other up, screwing up the thing. And then I was taking them out to take pictures of them and call Amazon. I'm like,
right,
why are some of the books covered in red dust? And why does it look like some of the pages are got red stuff all over it? There was a bag of hot Cheetos at the bottom of the box that had exploded and then just covered my books. So half of the books I can't use. So, and the other half I'm trying to get presentable, but I don't know. I'm going to have to look at my other inventory to see if I have anything left from New York Comic Con. I don't think I do. So we'll see what we are selling this weekend. I don't know. I don't know.
Is Amazon working with you on that at all? It'll be like, hey, we messed this up. We're going to send you new ones overnight for free, of course.
Oh, no. They're send us pictures and we'll get back to you in 48 hours. So.
All righty then.
Yeah. So anyway.
Right. So somebody might be hanging back to maybe bring some more books for you or something like that.
No, it's not going to happen. So
damn.
Happy Monday to me.
The Cheetos is probably the biggest plot twist here.
Yeah.
Somewhere whoever fucked up the shipping was just I'm going to add insult to injury and just throw the rest of my snack day in here. Just be done with it.
So once we're done with this podcast, I'm going to go downstairs and assess the true damage. So we'll see. Fingers crossed.
I don't think since you and I have been broadcasting together, I don't think that there's been a con of some kind where there wasn't some sort of shipping emergency or
cursed,
book mishap of some kind, in the days beforehand.
Every time it doesn't matter. See, it doesn't matter if I wait 3 weeks before or 2 months before, something always happens. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, I have shipped books to the event city a month in advance and shit happened. I have shipped then a week in advance and shit happens. I don't know what the secret formula to not screwing that up is, but I've yet to figure it out in the 7 years I've been selling books. So, yep.
Well, in years of mishaps and controversy and stuff like that, it seems like the Oscars have ducked it for once.
Yeah.
This was pretty uneventful. I mean, it'd be kind of tough in comparison to last year. That's obviously going to be kind of like a tough thing. Which, like, I only saw like one news story, and it was saying Will Smith gets further humiliated as Oscars breaks tradition to hand Brendan Fraser his Best Actor award at 95th Academy Awards. I was like, how do they break tradition? Like, I
don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either. It's like, well, he won. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that after the controversy of last year, they wanted this year to be so dull that they hired Jimmy Kimmel to be the host, and if he didn't put you to sleep between categories, then I don't know how you stayed awake, because he was so boring.
The Oscars have a unique tradition. Every year, the acting winner from the previous year returns to give the award to the current year's winner.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah. So Will Smith is banned for like 10 years. So
I guarantee you, most people didn't know about that or care.
I guarantee most people could not have given a fuck.
Yeah.
I didn't watch. I have never watched the Oscars. That's never been a thing. I don't care. I just don't care. So when it's uneventful, I really almost forget that it's happening unless somebody happens to post about it, which is what happened. I had somebody posting on Twitter talking about nominations, and honestly, the funny thing is that it was somebody retweeting how angry everybody was going to be and how racist the Oscars were going to be if Michelle Yeoh didn't win, which sure. I don't know if that's how she would have felt, but
sure. Well, I just love how
they're fishing for outrage.
A couple weeks ago, HBO made the decision to release The Last of Us on Friday because they didn't want to compete with the Super Bowl. Yep. But last night they were like, the Oscars, who watches that? And still put it out.
So, to be fair,
I mean, they weren't wrong, because I was watching The Last of Us, and then when we were done, I'm like, well, I'm not tired yet. I guess I'll flip over to the Oscars and see what's up.
I knew it was coming like earlier on in the day, and then I forgot about it. I was amped up waiting to watch The Last of Us, and I started The Last of Us at 8:01 p.m. like immediately after it was actually available. And I completely spaced it out, and then right before I was getting ready to go to bed, I was like, oh shit, Oscars was tonight, I should look that up. But I literally could not summon the energy to just reach over the 2 feet to grab my phone.
And Pedro Pascal was there at the Oscars.
Yeah, so. I didn't even look at it until this morning.
Well, let's run through it right quick. Let's just kind of skim over the winners, and then we can get into the meat of today's podcast. But this is from A.Frame. Winners list of the 95th Oscars.
I've got it up on Google here.
I'm just going to go down this list here. So the Best Picture went to Everything Everywhere at Once. They won several categories.
They won everything almost everywhere, almost all at once.
Yes, they won a ton, and the directors were definitely fun to watch because they were incredibly enthusiastic. Yeah, I might watch this film again. I watched it earlier in the year, and I gotta be honest with you, I didn't really care for it. I was bored.
I was waiting because I don't remember us doing an episode talking about where you like recommended it at all.
Because I didn't really have much to talk about. Yeah.
Normally, when you see a movie which is probably why I didn't see it, is because you weren't like jumping down my throat because I hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
Like that's normally like how I'll get turned on to a good movie that I thought to overlook.
But then I had friends that saw it that thought it was the best movie ever, and it's certainly been up the hype train all year. So maybe I'll give it a rewatch. Maybe I was just distracted or I wasn't giving enough attention to it. But I just wasn't enthralled by it. But apparently enough people were.
I was pretty pleased to see the Banshees of Inisherin in there. Like that was pretty cool.
Oh
Like
yeah, I mean
I
this
didn't
was a
know that they got
great Best
nominated.
Picture cast. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was one that I saw and I enjoyed that movie.
I've seen most of these films, but I haven't seen All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a remake. I want to see it. It's on Netflix. I've seen Avatar. I haven't seen
Yeah.
Banshees of in Nishirin.
I was a little surprised to see Top Gun Maverick up there for Best Picture because normally like the big heavy action movies don't really make it up there. But
Well,
that was cool because Top Gun Maverick was actually pretty dope. And
and
Elvis, I wasn't surprised to see.
they finally filled out the 10. They've been having 10 for years, and for years they didn't actually give 10 nominations. You know, it was always like
No,
we could get 10, but here's 8 or here's 9. Especially now when there's, you know, the movies are slowly starting to come back, but you're
true.
damn right Top Gun should be up there. Even if it's not going to win, it did a lot for the movie industry this year.
Yes, it did.
Especially for the theater industry. So
I still go back to YouTube just to watch like certain clips.
yeah, it was good.
It was a great. I didn't see it in the theater. I didn't see it till streaming, but it was great.
But back in the day, I would have watched all the films before the Oscars. I haven't seen The Fablemans. I haven't seen Tar yet. I've heard really good things about Tar. I haven't seen Triangle of Sadness or Women Talking. I haven't seen most of these films, but I do want to see them. So maybe I will in the coming days. Best Actor, Brendan Fraser won for The Whale. And Maddie and I did go see this. It's based on a play. And I don't know if I told you or not, but I highly recommend this film. It is a beautiful film. It's depressing AF, but it's so good. I mean, Brendan, it is a triumph for him. I mean, it's a great role. It definitely feels like a play. In that it's very minimal scenery. It's only like a couple rooms. The whole movie is only like a couple rooms, very much like a play that uses minimal sets. And you know, it's just one of those. They had a great screen, or they had a great, you know, script for the play, and they just turned it into a screenplay with minimal work. They didn't need to dress it up. They just had great actors in it, and it was really really good, and I'm so glad he won. I mean, I think he earned it.
Do you feel like Austin Butler was snubbed for not winning for Elvis?
No, I mean, I thought
I
Elvis was interesting, and I think Austin Butler's career is amazing. I mean, I remember when he was starring in that MTV show, and I thought he was cool. Now he's being nominated for Best Actor, and he's, you know, I mean, this is great. Good for him. He's you know, earning that paycheck. That's for certain.
I think I would have been into the Elvis movie. Like I watched it in the background, and it never like drew me away to where I like couldn't stop watching it. I feel like it probably would have caught me more if I had actually been an Elvis fan, but I'm not. I don't have the slightest. Honestly, like I worked in an online store factory for a little while. We did all like the shipping fulfillment, so it wasn't Amazon. This is before Amazon was huge. And there was a woman there. Like we had XM radio at that factory, and so there was like the bosses would choose the radio station every now and then, and occasionally it was always on Sundays. This one boss, she was like the only one around because nobody else would work Sundays, and she would turn it to the XM radio station that was just Elvis stuff all fucking day. And I swear, I worked at a Walmart during a Christmas season on one occasion, and I thought that was bad enough. I thought listening to the radio in a fucking retail store during Christmas season was bad enough. No, it's not. Listening to a radio station that is just about like not just his music. No. They're drudging up every fucking possible anniversary, even slightly tied to Elvis that you can think of. They were talking about that shit. Like half-hour segments of this DJ talk about it. Like I feel like I probably would have liked this movie. I didn't fucking hate Elvis after that torture I had to endure like 10 years ago. But other than that, it was an okay movie. But that was about the best of it.
Well, continuing down this list, we had Ke Huy Quan. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he won Best Supporting Actor for Everything Everywhere at Once. And
It's so cool to see his like return to the movie industry, and he ends up winning an Oscar. Like,
his and Brendan Fraser's at the same
yeah,
year. I mean, not to mention they were in Encino Man together, and I don't think anybody when Encino Man came out, we're like, those two guys are gonna win Oscars together in 15 years or whatever. So yeah, that's great. I think that's cool. I think his story this year is incredibly inspiring. And anytime he's like seen in a picture with Brendan Fraser or with Harrison Ford, it's kind of cool. So,
fuck, man, I did not know that he was in Encino Man.
Yep. Best actress in a leading role, Michelle Yeoh. And looking at these other actresses, I did not think Ana de Armas would win for Blonde, just because Blonde wasn't received very well, but she did great in it.
No.
I've heard Kate Blanchett is amazing in Tar. I haven't seen To Leslie, and I haven't seen The Fabelmans, but Michelle Yeoh is a force to be reckoned with. She's the first Bond girl to win an Oscar, and I think and that might not be true.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Actually, did Halle Berry win an Oscar? Yes, she did. So never mind. She's not the first Bond girl, but she's another Bond girl to win an Oscar. So
she also won a Razzie.
Yeah. She's great. She is a great actress. And she did, from what I remember of the movie, she was good in it. So well deserved. This one was a big one. Best actress in supporting role. I think everybody hands down believed it was going to be Angela Bassett. I enjoyed her in Wakanda Forever, but I felt all of her best parts were in the trailer. I think they did a severe disservice to her.
Well, I feel like so she had like a couple shining moments, but I can't like call that like career defining or like Oscar worthy because you had like a couple good moments in there. It's like you kind of have to. Like that was kind of where Wakanda Forever suffered a little bit, is that like it was a little messy in its edit and the way that it was formatted, and that might have taken away from what she was able to do. She didn't get quite the screen time I think we were expecting.
But she is a powerful actress, and
yeah, no, she did great. But
what I was more surprised that Viola Davis didn't have a lead or supporting role for her Woman King movie, because she was powerful in that as well. But Hong Chow was great in The Whale. I haven't seen Banshees, and I don't know who Stephanie. Look at this. There was two people in the same role for the same movie, in the same going up for the same award. Jamie Lee Curtis won it, and I think a lot of people were like, "Wow, that's awesome," because I don't think she's won, and she clearly was.
She was shocked.
Yeah,
like she was very surprised. It was like one of the clips that I saw. She was like, "What? Shut!" I think she actually said, "Shut up." She's like, she fucking didn't believe it herself.
There was a lot of memes on Twitter that was like, "Jamie Lee Curtis wins Oscar for Halloween Ends." And like, no.
I mean, her reaction to it would be about as appropriate too. She'd be like, "Wait, no."
But good for her. She is clearly amazed and excited. This was great. Guillermo del Toro won for Pinocchio. I've heard it's amazing. I have yet to see it.
It's a real punch in the face for Disney on that one.
I know, right? I know.
So good.
But I would have also not been surprised if Puss in Boots won, because that movie's really good. I don't know if you've seen it, The Last Witch. It's really good. The animation's really cool. It's got this wolf that plays death that's like violent as hell, and I liked it. I thought it was fun. It was a good movie.
I need to check out All Quiet on the Western Front, because something I didn't know about it is Daniel Bruhl's in it, and I love him. And almost everything that I've seen him in so far, he's been fucking great. But it cleaned up in a lot of places too. I don't know if
it won best cinematography.
Okay, I was gonna say like that alone is like something that draws me to it.
It beat Roger Deakins, which should have its own award. You beat Roger Deakins in best cinematography. I haven't seen Empire of Light, but I heard he does a great job in that. But yeah, I really want to see that movie.
On
Black
Netflix.
Panther got costume design.
I'm running into more reasons to reactivate my Netflix account.
Oh yeah. I'd share it with you, but I can't. Best directors directing went to the duo from Everything Everywhere at Once. Documentary went to Novelny. Short Elephant Whispers. Film editing again, Everything Everywhere at Once. International feature film. So an international feature film won. Never mind, it didn't win Best Picture, but it won several categories, and that again is All Quiet on the Western Front. The Whale.
So war breaks out in Germany in 1914. Paul Baumer and his classmates quickly enlist in the army to serve their fatherland. No sooner are they drafted than the first images from the battlefield show them the reality of war. So it looks like.
So you've never heard of
World War One from the perspective of Germans.
Yeah, and it is a classic. It is a remake.
I had never heard of it. I've heard that saying a lot.
Yeah,
like that. Like all's quiet on the Western Front is like a common saying that you'll hear every now and then, just as an anecdotal statement.
It's based on a 1929 book, and there was a 1930s movie.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there was another one too, but maybe not. Maybe it's just the 30 and the. But I've seen the 1930 film, and so. But yeah, I saw the trailer for this one, and I'm like, wow, this looks good. Hair and makeup went to The Whale, well deserved. Best music, All Quiet on the Western Front. I mean, they were cleaning shop. They were.
Right. And then best sound went to Top Gun Maverick.
Best sound, yep. So, and best music, not Lady Gaga, but it went to RRR for Not To, which from the people that have watched RRR, I've heard that is an amazing song, and they were so happy that it got nominated. But I did miss that live performance. I saw Rihanna's performance for Lift Me Up, and I saw Lady Gaga's performance for Hold My Hand, which I don't know if you've seen the clips of that. It was very she was just up there in jeans and a t-shirt and a couple of people behind her. Like it was very toned down. And originally she had said she wasn't going to do it as early as last week because she was too busy with Joker too. And I guess she just decided to do it, but it was almost like an acoustic performance, but she was just sitting on a stool with jeans and a t-shirt, and it was good. It looked good. I mean, she sounded good. She's definitely got a voice. Best production design, All Quiet on the Western Front. Animated short. Best live action short film, An Irish Goodbye. Best sound, Top Gun Maverick. And I agree. I'm surprised that's all it got, but it did sound good. So,
I mean, they really made you feel it.
Yeah.
Which was like a big part of the movie, was to make you feel like you were there. And
best visual effects was a hard category though, because Top Gun Maverick, the visual effects on that were great.
Yeah, but versus Way of Water though, I mean,
yeah, if Avatar had not been in 2022, I think that could have been a hard category.
Yeah,
but
that would have been
was
really
the clear
tough.
winner. And so I think if there was any upset that could have happened, it would have been, we don't need to give Avatar another award, you know.
No, we don't. I was honestly a little bit surprised that it didn't take Best Picture, just because that was how much people were freaking out about it. They wanted I could totally see the
we don't
studio
need another James Cameron, I'm on top of the world again.
Exactly. Speech. I could totally see people lobbying for that, just giving money to the Academy, being like, hey, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to worry about it again. Oh, wait, except we're going to have another Avatar next year or something like that, if they're holding to their schedule. So,
well, and he wasn't there, and Tom Cruise wasn't there. So we knew those weren't winning any of the big awards.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
Women Talking won Best Adapted Screenplay. Best Writing Original Screenplay. Again, Everything Ever at Once. So a solid night. Coming out of it, I didn't see anybody saying, oh, other than Angela Bassett, I don't think anybody was really shocked by any of the awards or saying someone got snubbed or something like that. So The only things I saw were, wow, Jimmy Kimmel was as annoying and boring as ever. So,
oh God, of course. Like I only saw like one clip of him, and honestly, I couldn't even hear what he was saying. I was just like, this sounds stupid. I don't know what the fuck.
there was
about.
this bit where he was walking around and putting the mic in people's faces, and you could tell like they were trying to play with it and be professional, but most of them were like, please just don't include me in your nobody's laughing. I don't want to be a part of this.
Honestly, the funniest thing he could have done would have been to have like stayed on stage just a little bit too long when another female actress wins an award and then just dive, like sprint and dive away as quickly as human possible. It would have been, I mean, it wouldn't technically have been topical anymore, but it would have been kind of funny. I just can't listen to the fucking guy anymore. I don't know what it is.
What cracked me up,
he panders too much at this point, and that loses me.
What cracked me up was, you know, I can only imagine what it costs to go to this event, you know, or what people pay to be a part of this event.
Dude.
When he would go into the audience, he kept on going to the same like side of the audience, and they kept on showing this person's white dress, and like there's like three people around behind her.
Yeah, everyone around you is pissed off.
This dude's like, I literally have to crank my neck to the side to not be all up in your dress. The three people behind her kept on like moving to like see her.
Go fuck yourself. This is Jonathan Majors there.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it looks great.
Was he up for anything? Like he probably
no, he wasn't. And there's Florence Pugh right there. But I mean, I think she's a singer. I don't know who she is. She looks great. And in like a photo shoot, she's
annoying as fuck. I can tell you that much right now.
I could see the contrast of the white surrounding her being like really cool for a photo shoot. But for sitting in the audience, I'm sure if they weren't seat fillers, somebody was like, get me the hell out of this seat. I did not pay this amount to look at the back of her dress all day. So that cracked me up.
Wait, I wonder if I got that dress at the Oscars.
Oh yeah, Twitter was talking about it last night. That's for sure. I don't know if it's relevant enough.
First, Thames gown obstructing audience views at Oscars sparks fan debate.
Yeah. I don't know if it's worthy of a debate per se.
Fans were quick to point out that Thames, who is nominated for Best Original Song, was blocking the view of people behind her.
She's a singer or a writer. Let's see, Best Original Song. What was that for?
Original song for Black Panther, "Lift Me Up."
She helped write it. She helped Rihanna write it. Okay. Interesting.
It's like, imagine waiting your whole life to be at the Oscars and you end up sitting behind a Stratus cloud.
Right?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a dick move. Like, you can take that part off. It's like, it's great for the red carpet, but come on. Like, be nice.
Yeah, it was it's a lot.
Total dick move. And like there's like a behind the scenes thing here. It had like a long trail on it too. That she had to like stuff away. So you're gonna be sitting there for a while. Like, you want to be comfortable. Come on. Damn.
I mean, I'm sure she was really hoping for that spotlight. If they won, you know, she would have looked great on stage.
100%. Like, I mean, like that's kind of like the world of Hollywood now too. It's just like I mean, any publicity is good publicity.
That's true. That's true. We're talking about her. I've not heard the name Thames before today, so
I can tell you now. I'm not going to look her up. Like,
I mean, that's the potential.
Bite now.
Just that's the potential. Yeah.
Let's get to talking about what we really wanted to talk about. Unless you got something in between you want to throw in.
I guess the only other thing is, they dropped one trailer last night that they didn't drop during the Super Bowl, and everybody was like, when are you going to drop a trailer for this? They finally did. The full trailer for The Little Mermaid came out last night. Did you happen to see that?
I did not. We should watch that, actually.
You know what I mean? Okay.
Let's pull that up. We haven't done we haven't watched a trailer on show for like a while now.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Little Mermaid trailer.
What 23 hours ago.
What YouTube channel are you pulling? Walt Disney Studios?
Walt Disney Studios.
Okay. I'm going to.
I have it zeroed out. I am ready to go.
All right, I need to share it with sound. So give me a second. Present. Share screen.
We're gonna get the copyright ding, so be ready for it. Like, if anybody's watching the show right now, there's a very good chance that we are going to be taken off of the air, and then we're going to come back after the trailer's over. So,
yeah,
if you want to see our reaction, sorry, you probably won't get to unless Josh can put some. You want to put some sort of like overlay over the trailer screen, just to kind of like try and like hide it or something?
More than it already is. I mean,
or maybe we don't even maybe we don't even show it.
Maybe we just put this overlay on and throw everybody off. You know, it's close.
It's
all the same.
Fuck it, do it. Okay, throw it over there. Like, as long as the screen doesn't like it's the AI. As long as it doesn't notice that it's the trailer, we might get away with it.
I mean, it might notice the sound. I feel like there's nothing we can really do.
I don't know.
Let's just do it.
Sorry, everybody. If you don't see this, we apologize.
Yeah,
it's just kind of how YouTube is now.
All right, here we go. Playing in 3, 2, 1, click.
I haven't seen the animated one in so long. I don't remember how it goes.
Yeah, I remember something happened in the beginning that made him fall, and she caught him. But water looks good. I'll give him that.
Water does look good. Manage that.
I don't recognize him. Disney 100.
You broke the rules. You went to the above world.
A man was drowning. I had to save him.
This obsession with humans.
Oh, he's the king. Okay.
I just want to know.
Have you boat him?
Ariel, don't! Poor child. I can help you.
Here we go.
You can't live in that world unless you become a human yourself. Is that even possible? That's what I live for.
I like the effects around her. Tentacles look cool. It's a classic shot.
Different. I can't quite figure it out.
She got legs, you idiot.
Well, they're doing songs.
I mean, could you do it without it?
They tried in some of the others.
Yeah. They're certainly hitting some of the classic visuals.
That doesn't make us enemies.
All right. Well,
I mean, they've put together a good trailer, but
it's good presentation. Yeah,
they did that with the other ones too, and it was kind of like, all right, well.
The question is,
what happens, but
you mentioned the music. Especially with Beauty and the Beast, they had songs and they had new songs. I don't know if that's going to be the case here. If they're going to stick to the originals, if it'll be all the originals. We got a little bit of Flounder. We got some of Sebastian. It'll be interesting. It doesn't look terrible, at least from the trailer.
And I don't see anybody, like, obviously I'm not a racist, so of course I don't see any problem with Halle Berry playing Ariel.
On Twitter. I'm sure there's
I guarantee people are freaking out about it.
The only reason it's not trending is because they've known for like a year. So, that's the only reason why it's not trending.
They're over it at this point. They're done being outraged. It looks like they're gonna do a good job with it visually, but this is also Disney just kind of like holding on to their copyrights, and we don't really know what to expect about how much effort they've actually put into the whole thing.
It is funny, in the span of 7 months, we're going to get 3 major films under the Disney banner that are water related. So we've got Wakanda Forever, we've got Avatar, we've got this, and it's
I had
hard
so
not
many
to
famous
compare.
people in that pool. It was just like
Yeah.
just going for it.
Yeah. So I think in the end this might win out for second place. I think Wakanda Forever might be third, but we'll see.
I feel like this one has the potential to do better than like some of the other Disney movies that they've put out there. Like if they follow the skeletal structure of the movie closer,
Sure.
like because I think the reason Mulan kind of fell off is because they didn't like stick kind of to the formula that the animated version had stuck to.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lion King, like because of the way that they animated it, it kind of took away all the emotion out of the characters, and like that made it kind of rough to watch. This one, we got real people. It's like we've got like a pretty reasonably easy premise to work with and to identify with.
Mm-hmm.
Like the easiest way for them to fuck this shit up is to just have like shit acting or something like that. But I mean, Javier Bardem, like he doesn't do anything half-assed.
Yeah,
He fucking goes there.
Holly,
I haven't seen
Holly
Halle Berry in anything, but
definitely sing apparently, or at least auto tune enough to where it sounds like she can sing. Because some of the other movies they couldn't sing, they didn't help them very much. I mean, we'll see. It definitely. I mean,
they're putting more effort into it than they did for Pinocchio.
Well, that's the thing, man. That's the thing. Between Pinocchio, Disney Plus has another Peter Pan movie coming out this fall. When you see those,
one day, I think,
yeah. When you see those, it's clear that it's a rights issue, that they need to keep on putting it out so many times to keep it going from public domain. This at least looks like they're trying, so you got to give them that. And I
feel like there's another way they could do it. Like I feel like they've got enough lawyers to where they could work something out to extend the copyright without creating a whole new fucking thing for it.
I don't know. Like, if they did, we wouldn't be bombarded with a Peter Pan movie every 10 years. But not even 10. I feel like it's been less than that.
Peter Pan wasn't even Disney originally though, right? Like Peter Pan was
right. So that's what they do. Like Peter Pan in written form based on the book is public domain. If I wanted to write my own version of a Peter Pan story, as long as I didn't take any elements that were in the Disney movies, I'd be fine. But Disney keeps putting out more Peter Pan movies with elements to keep their things in their public domain. I can't tell you exactly what those are, but
I don't know. The best Peter Pan movie to date is still Hook, and I maintain that.
It's a solid film. I think the 2003 Peter Pan, was it 2003? 2003 Peter Pan. Yes. Hook was a good spin-off movie. This is still my favorite Peter Pan movie, and it's got Jason Isaacs. That's a very small picture. It's got Jason Isaacs as both the dad and Hook, and he sold it. He was so good. Trying to pull it up here. This right here, favorite version of Peter Pan. I don't know if you've ever saw it, but it was good. It was good. Had good acting, had good effects. It wasn't a Disney film though. I forgot who put it out, but it wasn't Disney. Jason, great Hook. So that's probably the last good one they made. Then there was another one with Hugh Grant. That wasn't good.
I don't know, Peter. Originally considered to be a prequel to Hook. However, Dustin Hoffman was not interested in reprising his role as Captain Hook, so the idea was abandoned. Well, he would have been much older than he had originally been.
Right. Interesting. I love Jason Isaacs in it, though. He was great. I love him as an actor. I think he's
Jason
great.
Isaacs is great. He's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, we've put this off long enough. Let's talk about The Last of Us.
Let's get in there.
We're gonna do non-spoiler stuff first.
I'm gonna take like 5 seconds to say, fucking watch the goddamn show. Okay, this is the best video game adaptation media I have ever seen.
That's not to say we probably don't have some notes for it, but yeah, it's pretty damn good.
This is the I'm not exaggerating this at all. This is the best video game adaptation to screen that I have ever seen, and it is setting an incredibly high bar for what movie studios should be capable, or for what video game studios are capable of as far as story. Like this is kind of like the thing that breaks that barrier to entry for video games to have like great storytelling for people who aren't interested in video games.
Yeah.
It was like, if you really loved the Last of Us story from the game, which I did, I played it immediately before actually even diving into the show.
So did
I loved the story. The story was great. But if you are a person who plays video games seriously and have played a multitude of games that have excellent storylines that you wanted somebody else in your life to experience, but they just weren't interested in it, like that sucks. Like it's a shitty feeling sometimes. I can't tell you how many times I've like gone through just how good of a story God of War is to Cece. She just doesn't care. It's like she'll sit and watch me play the game occasionally, but like not all the way through. The Last of Us would have been kind of a similar situation. Like this isn't a game that she would have been even remotely interested in playing, but the story was like really good, and I would have been like pushing her. Well, she ended up loving the show. So like, and that is a compliment that does not apply to literally any other video game based title out there that I have seen anyway. There are some people who would say that there's like, I have somebody who says that some of the Resident Evil movies were great, or that some of the Tomb Raider movies were great. It's like Tomb Raiders were like laughably awful, but it seemed almost like it was on purpose. Like,
but here's the caveat with that: how many video game adaptations, shows, or movies have we had that had a source material that was as story based and narrative driven as The Last of Us?
Exactly.
When you go to Resident Evil, when you go to even lesser dense stuff like Mario Brothers, they're literally taking a property and trying to make a story with those figures. And there's been a thing lately in the past few years that if you didn't want to play a game, there's so many games out there. You could literally go on YouTube and watch the movie of the game, which is really just all the cutscenes put together in a movie format. That is what this was.
Barely does it.
That's true. That's true. Barely does it. This is the movie, the show, the actual show. And it really did feel like it was the cutscenes, because they lifted word for word, scene for scene, visual for visual of most of the game. I mean, because they had that rich source material, it wasn't a stretch to put a couple actors and put it behind an actual camera and film it. Because it was like they were filming a movie for the game. So it has that going for it that most video game adaptations didn't have.
Uncharted was probably the most recent attempt, and it's also related to this story because that was also a Sony property.
Right.
Did not do well.
No, it did not.
I didn't even bother watching that one until it came out for streaming, and then I was like, wow, I really feel like I wasted my time here.
Yeah, and even then they tried to take liberties for it to make it more of a cinematic experience, and it really didn't work.
They tried to get around a little bit. And the other one that shows up in this list when I looked up video game movies, that comes to mind is actually not that bad, was the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. But you're dealing with a completely open, like there's already been so much Sonic the Hedgehog content out there. Like he had a comic book, there was an animated series, there's an anime.
And that's, I still don't feel like that's an adaptation, because it's just a movie featuring the character from the game. It's not based on the game. It's not following the story of the game.
It's like another piece of media inside of that universe, which is also what like the Mario movie is coming up here. Like that's like, again, like you're not going to play a game where you could play games where you're going to get the same story out of Mario, but that's about as much story content as it has. This was the first, like Assassin's Creed was the last video game movie that came out where I was like rooting for it, like hard, because I loved the Assassin's Creed games. The ones that were out at that point in time had done a really good job with their story, with some mess, but did an excellent job. And it also had Michael Fassbender in it. So I was like, oh shit. Okay, here we go. And then it was a letdown. And you're like, well, fuck. And then the most recent Mortal Kombat movie, I think, was the next closest one. But again, we're diving into that same territory where there's like absolutely no real story content that they had followed.
Right.
Like they were able to take complete liberty of what's going on. The
Right.
Last of Us, yeah, I don't consider this a spoiler, but some people will. But The Last of Us followed the game almost to a T, almost dead on. And you're gonna get, so you could play through the game and then have like the beat and like the entire plot line for the show. There were still some surprises in there, but they were welcome. And then there was some stuff that they had to cut, which was kind of like necessary.
We'll talk about some of that. I think when they announced this show and they announced that Craig Mazin was going to be a part of it, and that he was going to be writing and show running it, I think a lot of people thought he was going to rewrite it or something, or he was going to put his staple on it. And while he's amazing for Chernobyl and he's got a super interesting career, I feel like he did help make this show great. But the best writing moments in this show came from the game, word for word. I mean, I was almost kind of worried that people were putting Craig's name so high up that it was like, did he rewrite a lot of the show to make it TV worthy? And thankfully he didn't. He worked hand in hand with Neil Druckmann, and they down to the final frame of the show was exactly the same frame and word of the final frame of the game. And they, because there used to be that sentiment, we have to change it. It's a different medium. We have to change it. In this, it's like, no, you don't. Everybody who ever played the game loved the story of the game. You're going to turn it into a show. For the love of God, just let it be. And they let it be, and it was great.
Well, to be fair, for the majority of video game movies that have been made, they have been choosing games where they have basically a playground. Like they haven't necessarily been choosing games where there is a rigid storyline that they would need to follow or anger absolutely everybody.
Right.
Like, I mean, just out of the popular video game movies that pops up here, we've got Uncharted, where you have 4 games there that they could have chosen from, and they chose none of them, which I think was probably the big part of the mistake. Mortal Kombat, Detective Pikachu, barely video game related at that point in time.
It's not. Yeah.
They had Warcraft, which dealt with some like lore from World of Warcraft, but that's a tough one, and also a huge universe.
And it didn't work. And it didn't work. That was probably fairly faithful, and it didn't work.
Free Guy is the next one up in here, which is not a video game movie. It's just a movie about a video game that they created specifically for that, and there's a bunch of references and was okay, but like no. Hitman Agent 47 again was like kind of okay, but Hitman again, like even the games weren't really that great.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch more of these in here, like where it was all kind of the same thing. And yeah, Assassin's Creed again, like is the only one that pops up in here where I was like, I actually feel like if they had stuck to the storyline closer to it, they probably would have done a better job, but they didn't. They decided to deviate. And The Last of Us shows that if you pick the right title, you can do incredibly well. And it gives me hope, but it doesn't take away any of my reservations for future video game based projects, because I have hope if they choose a video game where the story is upfront. But it also doesn't get rid of any of my reservations, because now we're going to see a really successful video game movie, and now a bunch of studios are going to try and cash in on that. And well, I mean, it wasn't a movie, but we're going to see a bunch of studios cash in and try and jump back into this all over again. And because they had so many video game movies that went terribly, they can be like, well, we can try Tomb Raider again, even though they tried it again recently with the remade Tomb Raider, and it was still not that great. Or I mean, they're trying it with God of War, and if they fuck that one up, I'm going to be insanely angry. So like messy territory, but it can be done.
I think we can talk spoilers. I think we've made our non-spoiler feelings clear. If you haven't seen it, go see it. But let's talk spoilers.
We are going to talk the finale episode, but also the show as a whole.
Yeah, because I think the last time we talked about this was a few weeks ago. I think we had talked about.
We were halfway through.
I think it was 1 through 5 is what we talked about.
I think so too. I think we had just gotten through the episodes with Henry and Sam in Kansas City.
Yeah, and the massive horde of the and one of the things, and I'm just going to start off with this. One of the things I said with that episode was that, God, we didn't have a lot of infected, and by the end of that episode, we did, and we got this massive thing of infected, and I was like, thank you. I mean, not to say that the show wasn't compelling enough, but it was a show about infected and clickers, and what we'd seen of the clickers so far were so great. I wanted more of them, and so I was so glad we got them. In the final 4 episodes, the show is so damn good, but for those people that have never played the game, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody said, what do they really need the cure for? Because these people seem to be avoiding clickers and the infected pretty well in the show.
They've gotten away from it at this point. Like, they're not really a threat.
We haven't really seen them in 4 episodes. The humans are more of a threat. And in the game, I feel like it was more balanced. There was a human threat, but if you went in the wrong building or if you were too loud in the wrong tunnel, there was always the potential for clickers to be there. In this game, they either cut those scenes completely or it just didn't feel like there was a lot of clickers around, you know?
Yeah, like there's a reasonable explanation to assume that after 20 some years, people have found a bit of a way to sort of deal with this outside of the QZ zones. Otherwise, there's no other way that they would have survived. Like, because inside the quarantine zones, like you could see, like early on in the show, like just outside of the quarantine zones was just masses of infected. And they also decided to add in a little thing to where like they all kind of had a similar hive mind, which was not part of the game.
Right. And that was in episode 2. So it kind of made you feel like, oh, you better be on your tiptoes for the whole show. But that was they also replaced Fedra in that second episode as like the main baddies that are responsible for test dying, and they turned it into infected. And you're like, okay, they're gonna make the infected more at the forefront in this show. And then fucking episode 5 rolls along, and they're just like, all right, here it is. You're like, oh yeah, oh my god, they really are getting there. And then fucking left turn. And I'm with you. I think that the show did well regardless of that. But especially like in the finale episode, I was getting increasingly more and more pissed off because that fucking tunnel, that like highway tunnel level with fucking infected everywhere, waist deep water, and like 2 of the big fucking bloaters. I was just like, okay, are they just not gonna have to? It's like these guys were playing on like easier than story mode, I think is the phrase that I used for you. It's like fuck you guys. Because like that was the hardest thing to get by stealth, because I wanted to get it by stealthily. I didn't want to fight because I knew I was getting close to the end. I could feel that I was getting close to the end of the game, and I needed to like conserve every bit of ammo that I had, which was another big part of it that they kind of didn't really jump into in the show. It was like ammo conservation. During the hospital run, but that was about it.
Yeah. During the hospital run, they made it very clear. It's like you're probably not gonna be able to hold on to the same weapon, but yeah, there was I had saved up for that fight.
Yeah.
And then the tunnel scene was just they just nixed it the entire thing.
I had actually gotten through the tunnel on fire bombs alone. Like I had enough fire bombs and nail bombs that I could just launch it from afar and kill him and then go around him. But here's the thing. We don't have to all of a sudden talk about the finale only, but the finale was the shortest episode of the series. And I feel like in other times, you know, like last week's episode was so damn good with David and his whole camp and everything that we didn't need the little side mission of him and Ellie avoiding the clickers in that abandoned warehouse. We really didn't need it.
No.
Because there was enough to fill that episode. In this, it felt like the shortest episode. And even if there was like a 10 12-minute sequence of them going through a building with clickers or a tunnel or something before the Fireflies got him, I think that would have fleshed out the episode a little more and just reminded you of how far they've come. But I really feel like it started off infected clicker heavy. We did get one infected person in a flashback in the finale, but there's got to be somebody who's like taking notes saying, when we do season 2, we got to bring a little more clickers onto the scene, because they really kind of took a back burner approach with that. And you know, it's fine. It's still a really good show. And the threat is clearly also the humans. But when you make those clickers look so good, you should have them on screen more often, you know?
Well, also, like, Ellie is contending with the idea now having been rescued from being killed for the cure, which she doesn't know what's happened. They did a better job of explaining that in this than they did in the game. Like, she just kind of like took what he said. In this one, he actually said that it was Raiders that was what ended up happening.
She was still suspicious in the game, I feel.
She had more reason to be suspicious in the game than she did here. Like, Raiders raiding the hospital beforehand and him barely getting her out is more believable than him just not telling her, there were already plenty of people for it. We had to run out. Sorry, I didn't get any of your clothes. Like, more believable than what we got in the game. But like, she's contending with, and she says it in the game. She's like, after all we've been through, it can't be for nothing. And that was like the reminder of what Ellie was fighting for. Whereas I feel like the audience almost needed a reminder of what humanity was fighting for. And we didn't get that because they didn't have like another infected moment. And I'm not saying that it needed to be like an action-packed moment where it was just like nonstop infected and like a big chase scene or anything like that. Like, really all it needed to be would have been, it almost could have been like another instant where when Ellie had dove down at that convenience store early on in the show and she'd seen the one infected that was like trapped and she decided to kill it in this really gruesome way. Like, it would have been neat to have like a mirror moment there where she ran into another situation like that, but rather than kill it in like this unmerciful, almost curiously dissective way, to have her kill it in more of like a merciful way after all she had been through, and just kind of like seeing is like I could have saved. It was like, maybe I could have saved this person or something like that. Like that.
Yeah. Because
Like,
the way we got it, we did get an infected scene, and we'll talk about that in the beginning, but it was a flashback. And when you think about that and all the other times we've seen the infected or the clickers, it just does seem like in the past or in earlier episodes. It didn't seem very present, you know? So I think they dropped the ball on that. I still think it was a solid finale, and I want to talk about the episodes leading up to the finale first, just briefly. Episode 7 was they covered the DLC Left Behind, and I thought that was great.
I ended up playing through that, so
it was a great DLC.
It was pretty good.
It fit. It was, you know, it just fit the storyline, that it was kind of a filler, and the way they put it in to the show, not at the end, but while you know, she was worrying about if she was going to be able to take care of Joel, and she was deciding if she should heed his words and go off on her own, or if she should find a way to save him. I really liked it, and it was, again, lifted almost scene for scene from the DLC down to the point where you don't really see the end of these characters, and you don't really know what happened until she explains it later. But it was,
which she doesn't do in the game.
She doesn't do in the game, right? But you just assume. You assume. Yeah. But I liked it. I thought it was very natural between them. I liked their interactions. They seemed very innocent, but they also seemed, you know, like they were clashing with their own ideals, you know, and what they wanted in life. And, you know, she had this little, you know, meeting with Fedra in which the guy was like, I could see you being, you know, being a leader in Fedra and doing good things. And then her best friend is like, yeah, they were going to make me do sanitation or whatever. You know, that's not the
Just
life I
gonna
want.
clean out the sewers.
Yeah. And I did like it. Again, there wasn't tons of infected or clickers in the mall like there was in the game, but one was brutal enough, especially
Yeah,
with 2
100%.
relatively young kids, so I thought
One
that was a
made
good episode.
one made more sense given the location that they were in. Like
Yeah.
if it had been a horde of them, you'd have been like, why the fuck didn't they wake up sooner?
And how the hell
But-
did they survive? How did these
Yeah.
2 survive, Yeah. But one did enough that it bit both of them, so I like that. I like that they included things like the costumes and stuff. I thought that was it was fun. It was making me smile. Like I was dreading what was coming, but I was smiling watching them enjoy them all.
Cece was watching it like she kept on looking at me like almost like she wanted me to tell her what was going to happen. And I'm just like, no, I'm not going to say anything. I'm sorry. I will say that this episode was like another one where Bella Ramsey has just won me. Like I fully expect to see multiple Emmy and Golden Globe nominations for this series. But I'm honestly, I mean, depending on what comes out, I would be a little bit surprised to not see her take some awards for her performance in this show overall. And this episode was another one, like just her reaction to getting bit and playing like the teenage angst character so well in like this post-apocalyptic world where like this is the best that they can hope for, is for just like a shot at what we're used to all the time. Or like the idea of a merry-go-round to us is so foreign and boring.
Right.
Like I couldn't get excited about it. Like an arcade is practically an antique to us now.
But just like she was amazed by the car, she was blown away by the arcade, and I loved it.
Her mind was blown by the fucking escalator.
Oh yeah,
and we look down on the escalator. We look down on the escalator, some fat fuck paradise now. Like, and she was just like enamored with it, and you're like, wow, like, which was another thing that they captured well, because like that was how she was in the game. Like, they couldn't fill in a lot of the, like, they tried to, but there was like a lot of little pieces of dialogue that you get between Joel and Ellie just in the gameplay, where like she's trying to relate to him, or she's just showing like her naivety around what used to be the world.
Yes.
And Joel's just kind of like, yeah, this is how it was. It was like he's just not bothered by it anymore. He's so numb now. And in the moments where they present that for us, they did an excellent job. And this episode was heavy with that.
It was
heavy with that.
And I do want to talk about award episodes later, because I think a lot of times they
already have 2. We know the 2 that are probably up in there.
But a lot, like we've said before, a lot of times they don't send the whole show for awards. Correct. They send like an episode. So I do, at the end of this, I want to talk about, what do you think? I'm going to give you some time to think about this. What do you think would be Ellie's award submitting episode, and what do you think would be Joel's award submitted episode? But we'll talk about it at the end. Episode 8, was a great episode. So much.
You got him blacked out.
So, well, no, that's just how that's the frame from the movie. So that's him. We'll talk about Troy Baker being in this, but this movie was a solid episode.
Like, I thought it was crazy that he chose that scene, because that was such a, like, I loved the parallel between like the 2 versions of his character in this. Like a lot of people, like, I saw some more backstory too. Yeah, I saw some news stories that came up saying that they thought that they ruined David in the show, and I was just like, I don't understand how you'd pull that. Like,
I've yet to see anybody really have that argument. Like, I feel like that's just clickbait, because it was great. We got a little more backstory. We got this cultish vibe to him, to where he wasn't a preacher in the past, but he kind of became one, and it made sense to use that to rule. To get people to trust him, even though
Book of Eli of him, like,
yeah. Oh, I mean, he just used it. And that's biblical shit, like in the after the apocalypse, people will act like they're representatives of God in order to gain your trust, and he totally does that. And he says, "I've always had a violent heart," and he clearly has always had urges, and he's using that authority and that divine authority to get what he wants and to get people to follow him. And he was great. And one of the people that followed him was Troy Baker, and I'm glad that he got some type of role, and I was glad of the role that he got. I thought he did great in his role. It was a side role, but I thought he was good.
I didn't recognize him at first, which isn't that surprising. Isn't that surprising? Because I'm not used to seeing his face. I'm used to hearing his voice.
Right.
And there were moments. I ran into this again too with The Bad Batch, where like I'll recognize a voice actor from a video game, but they're playing in real life, or they're just voice acting in something else. But you're like recognizing their character. It was weird until I saw his name in the end credits. It's like, oh shit! And then it all kind of like flooded in.
It's the Joker. It's Joel. It's Troy Baker.
Yeah. Wasn't. I mean, I expected it. It was like super poetic that Ellie ends up killing the voice actor for Joel.
There was some interviews where he was like, I expected them to just have me as an infected in the background. Like I never in my he never thought he'd get this big of a role, and it was just enough. Like I'd like that they showcased him a bit.
It was like the way that they utilized the voice actors in the show. I thought was great for each one that actually made their appearances. The true sinister nature, like they brought David out, and like I said, they changed a little bit from the video game. Like in the video game, he wasn't like a preacher. It wasn't a religious thing or anything like that.
Added some layers to him.
Yeah. They filled in some of his backstory in a mission. For those of you who didn't play the game, they filled it in with a mission between him and Ellie where they have to fight off a horde of infected while waiting for James to return. And you want to believe him. Like you really do. Like you want to trust him. But he does such a good job of being honest. Like there is this darker side to him. And I'm so glad that they kept it in and captured like the original magic of like the reveal moment that they had, that he had that he knew or had a sneaky suspicion of who she was. And the connection was that it was the exact same in the show as it was in the game. And man, just like the oh shit that washes over Ellie's face was great. And that was just an excellent moment. They also closed what I thought was like a bit of a plot hole. Because in the game, in the moment where Ellie is running out and she's like, I'm going to lead these people away from you. In the game, she gets caught like right as she's leaving the house almost.
Yeah.
And like Joel is not found inside that same house, which I thought was like super weird. Like
there was some time passage too. It wasn't as immediate as in the show. So you're like, how did they not find him? Yeah.
Or like how in the hell did they not know where he was? Why did they not search that house that she was in? Because she just bolts.
Right.
And there's like a horse chase, which they did in here too. But other than that, no, like that even Joel's moment was pretty similar, although shortened because of course they had to.
But the torture scene was almost word for word.
No,
kneecap for kneecap.
Yeah, and I believe the torture scene was almost like I think it was word for word.
I really think it was
from the game. I can't remember any real deviations from it.
And they gave you melee death. Like at the whole show, I was like, when are we going to see a brick used to impale someone's face or a pipe? Give me a pipe. I love pipes in the game. And he picks up the pipe in that scene. I'm like, yes.
It's like the brick or the bottle were the two most underutilized tools in the show compared to the game where you use them fucking all the time.
Right.
And not once did we see Joel fasten a shiv. And
nope.
and
Nope.
that made me wildly upset. I was just like,
But
are
he
you
used
kidding me?
that pipe. He used the pipe once. So
The pipe was the best melee weapon, though. To be fair,
Yeah.
it was the pipe with the shiv
right, you
attachment
can upgrade
to it
to a one-hit
to
kill.
give it two 1-hit kills before downing it. Always
Mhm.
good.
I like the set design of David's town based around the
Yep.
resort. That was very similar to the game. The lodge was very similar.
The restaurant was almost dead on.
Dead on. Like
Like,
I feel like the game must have been based off a real restaurant. Maybe they
yeah.
went there.
It's like,
His interrogation of her, I felt was a little more leaning towards his preferences to young girls in the show than in the game.
yeah.
Feel like
Which
the
the
game you didn't
article,
really see it until he was on top of her with the fire all around him. And this one, it definitely hinted towards he kind of wanted her for multiple things in the interrogation.
the article that I read where they felt like they ruined David was referring to that, and I was just like, I don't see that as a ruin. That just makes him more of a villain.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody more villainous than a pedophile preacher in a post-apocalyptic world where everybody's coming to you for help, who is also feeding you human flesh.
And the way
Like,
he
for
was telling
fuck's
her,
sake.
the way he was telling her was like complimenting her, like you're a powerful leader and together we could help these people.
It was indoctrination in
really
exactly the same way that like you would expect somebody
Yeah.
like that in the community to act, to where
Thankfully,
they want
she was smart enough to see through
saw
it.
right the fuck through it,
And
breaks his finger.
There's a point where she says "oh" or something, where she like realizes he's talking about more than just let's be pals together, and she
Yeah.
kind of comes close, and I'm like, okay, she knows what's going on, but she pulled
Proves
that
that
off
she's-
really well. Yeah,
Proves that she's smarter than him right off the bat, just in that
Yes.
scene alone.
yeah,
I also like that she didn't eat the meal, whereas opposed into the game, she dove right the fuck in.
yeah. She was a little
Like
smarter
in this
show.
one, she's like, "There's no way. So there's no way I'm trusting that stuff."
And for people that didn't play the game, I did like how they were focusing on the meat, and there were scenes like what's in it. And I think they could have played it a little different, like what's in it, venison or rabbit, and the guy was like venison. In this one, she just looks at him, and the whole time I'm
she's like, she
questioning
knows.
how
Like,
how many people know, because David says that the majority of the town doesn't know. So I'm guessing what they were doing was putting human with venison or
Right.
rabbit to kind of mix the taste. And we see bodies when Joel comes across the bodies in the bar, and I was like, oh shit.
You
I
see his
remember that
face
part of the
change,
game.
man. Like you see his
Yeah.
demeanor shift.
That
Like
was graphic too. That was
the
graphic.
thing that was fucked up is that Cece was like thinking that Cece, when they had finished the funeral scene, Cece was thinking that he had killed Alec.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was just like, no, they're eating him. Because he had the excuses like, it's too cold to dig, we'll bury your
Yeah.
father in the spring. And I was like, no, it's because he's eating them, everything but the head, which was the only thing that was missing from the bodies. So
Right.
they can stuff a casket or something,
Right.
have like an open open casket, cover the body, and just
And the
fucking
next
eat the
scene
rest.
we
It's like,
see
shit.
after the funeral is them preparing a stew with a ton of red meat. So that's
Yeah.
clearly the girl's dad, who David just backhands and says, "I'm your daddy now." Pretty much like Jesus. But
Yeah.
I loved it. And then we get to the race of who's going to get there first, Joel or Ellie. Is Joel going to be able to save Ellie? The whole everything's burning around, and Ellie's trying to hide, and they again executed Ellie's saving herself scene very, very well.
Which was super
turmoil
important in the
and the
game
violence.
and
Yes.
super important in the show.
Yes.
Like it needed to be a situation because she had just spent so much time rescuing Joel
Yeah.
that we couldn't have it be to where as soon as his handicap is like slightly lowered and he doesn't have to, and
He
he's not
rescues
as
her.
disabled, he
Yeah.
immediately rescues her. It's like, no, she needed to remain like a force to be reckoned with, especially with the character that they need to establish her as for the part 2.
Yes.
I'm assuming that there's going to be a part 2. I've gotten an introduction to it. I haven't
played it. I don't want to know about it yet. I'm going to play it, so don't spoil it.
No,
But
absolutely.
I've heard that slowly start to show her unravel and becoming more violent. And this was a peek into that, but it certainly wasn't unjustified. Like
No,
just
like
like in the game, she gets it. I mean, they
she
don't
does the
show him like
exact
they
same
did.
goddamn thing to his
Yeah, she
face in
turns his
this.
head into hamburger. They just don't show it in the show, but
Yeah.
it was justified, and they definitely turned on the creep for David in those last moments. You know, the whole
Yeah.
I like it when they fight and stuff like that. Like that was.
And then they break your heart when Joel and Ellie reunite, and he calls her baby girl, and then I cried for like 10 minutes. I was like, fuck.
And he finds her outside. He doesn't find her in the building.
Yeah.
And that interaction, like she's not saying full sentences, and her face, and I mean the turmoil and the emotion is just great. Like that interaction was perfect.
That again is another. So like you were asking about Emmy moments, like that is the episode that you submit for Ellie.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, I feel
100%. Like if you're gonna submit awards, that's the episode that you do.
Yeah.
If you got 2 episodes, you do it with the one with her and Sam interacting with each other, because like her reaction to Henry killing himself was brutal. Like just like her non-dialogue acting was great in that entire episode, just like with the interactions that she was having. And then
strong. It was a strong
moment.
And
then in this episode, like this is like the strongest contender for her to take an Emmy home, and I fully believe that she would, if nominated, to do so.
So then we get into the finale, and I was very intrigued and surprised to see it start with Ashley Johnson, who plays Ellie in the game, and I was like, "Oh, how cool would it be if she's the mom?" And then I realized she's pregnant, and she is the mother of her character that she played in the game. And I thought, you know, it's very ambiguous in the game, like how Ellie is immune.
Yeah, they don't go. Not even ambiguous. They don't go into it at all.
Right now we know why. It's because her mom was pregnant, got bit while giving birth, and through umbilical cord, Ellie got some type of. She got the cordyceps type stuff, but she's immune to it, and yeah, it made some sense. This was a very short scene, but we did get infected, and we also got to see her relationship with, is it Maria, leader of the Fireflies, Marlene, and I like that. I like showing Marlene and how she came to be a caretaker of sorts for Ellie. So it was a good starter scene. What did you think of this, since this wasn't in the game?
This was I thought that this was a great moment, and just a great nod to another voice, like because again, like they didn't have to include the original voice actors in big parts. Like they didn't have to do it at all. They could have made them infected in the background, or given them like the Peter Jackson cameos where they show up for a frame and you're like, oh fuck, was that? But they didn't do that. Like they gave them meaningful parts, and they did a great job with them. And this one especially, like it was interesting hearing her voice, because she was making all the sounds and the dialogue that you're used to hearing in the game. Like it was, you were hearing fucking Ellie, and it was yeah, it was emotional.
It was emotional.
I didn't think that I would have connected to it quite as much as I did, but it was like, man, it's. I've wanted video games to get like a better bit of recommendation in the pop culture as a whole, for like a long time, because I've never been obsessed with TV shows and movies. Video games have always been my top media form. Like I'm just now getting into reading. I'm doing at least one book a month this year. I'm always the one out of the two of us. I'm always the one who's behind on latest TV shows and latest movies and stuff like that. And so I don't know why, but it felt like this moment in the show felt so symbolic for like the video games getting the recognition they deserve by using the original voice actors. This is like, wow.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure that to the creators of the game, like that, it might have been a similar reaction for that. Like I can't even fathom how good they must feel. for being able to pull something like this off. And
And again, this is why this is such a good adaptation, because there were tons of these scenes, especially in the beginnings of the episodes, that were supplemental, that were new. But that was the thing. They were supplemental. Nobody thought we needed to take away the bulk of the scenes from the source material and replace them with new ones. Most of the new stuff in this show was supplementing the already masterful storytelling of the game. And they didn't try to swap it out to make it their own footprint of it. They're like, let's put a couple things in there, maybe to throw off the viewer, but ultimately to supplement the story. And I can't think of one time that they did it that I was like, that kind of ruins the show for me, or it discounts the game. I think every new thing they added to the show added context, gave you a little more, maybe gave a nod to some of the theories of how this and this happened, but it was all supplemental to the story and not taking away from the story.
Yeah, and so important that they were able to do that.
Yeah.
So important that they were able to do that. And yeah,
so then
it was such a good moment, and then it was followed up. But yeah, you bring this up. It was followed up by yet again another one of the more beautiful moments of the game.
Yeah.
Which was the giraffe scene.
But before even getting that giraffe scene, they nailed the characters from the game, just like in the game. Hold up, we got a comment here. Who's commenting? Scott. I haven't played the show. I haven't played the games. I haven't played the show. I haven't played the games, but the show was solid. I'm glad you liked it, Scott. Not everybody has to play the games.
You don't have to play the games now if you don't want to. You've got the story down.
Yeah. But just like in the game, before you got to this scene, in the game, suddenly the most talkative character of the game was very beside herself and not talking. And the most stoic, don't talk to me, especially don't read me puns, person of the game and the show was the one talking. They'd switched rules by this point in the game, and they switched rules by this point in the show, and I loved it. He was trying to be more of the dad character, looking after her and trying to get her to be okay, and she was definitely trying to, she realized that their time might be coming to an end, and she was suddenly very quiet, and I love that. I thought they portrayed that really well.
And it was uncomfortable. Like, it was uncomfortable in the game. Like, it was like, this is awkward. Like, why is she not talking? Like, this is so sad.
Right.
And then, like, she gets like a brief moment where, like, she sees, like, I always felt like the giraffes were like a symbol to where, like, the world could actually be okay. And that gives Joel kind of like that hope to be like, he's like, you know what? Like, this never existed in the world before, where these giraffes were just able to proliferate inside on this continent. Like, it has never happened. It's like these animals, like the adults of those animals were probably raised in captivity, or were definitely raised in captivity, given the timeline. Like, something like this could never exist. And you're also seeing that there is still beauty in the world, like, which they never really took the time for in any of the other episodes. Like, we never really got a moment like that. And yeah, it was a beautiful scene, ripped again right out of the game, and was preceded by like another big nod to the game, which was the ladder drop. It was like, that was something you would do in the game all the time. That was another big thing that they would do in the game all the time. It was like fucking hunting down a ladder or a plank of wood to cross something or climb up something.
Get up there and put it down. Yeah, it was a major part of the game.
Yeah, and they finally
got one.
In there. and they used that to play it into the giraffe scene exactly like they do in the game. Like, that's exactly what happens. He throws her up there to grab a ladder. She drops it down to him, but drops it.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, a beautiful moment that was then immediately followed up with them getting captured by the Fireflies. And once that happened, I'm like, here we go. Here's the finale.
They skipped out the tunnel scene
the tunnel.
Like, it's okay.
But I was like, okay. I'm ready for this finale. And they Joel wakes up and Marlene's there to say, hey, I didn't expect you to get here. Congrats on getting here. He's all like, where is she? I want to see her. She's like, it's done. Your part here is done.
And Marlene's actress playing the part yet again.
Yes. And she
Because
does
for
it
those
just
who,
as well as she did in the game.
For those who are interested, like Marlene is the only character from the game who got the part in the show.
Yeah.
So it's not even a cameo. Like she's reprising her role essentially. Right. And she did a great job with it this time too. Like, I mean,
so cold, so nonchalant. Like it's already done. Like she's in his surgery. We're not going to talk about it.
Like they gave us more of a reason for how cold and how also it's like killing her inside to do this, because she was the one who made sure Ellie survived, and she knew Ellie's mother for so long, Anna.
Right.
Like brutal.
So
absolutely
she's not,
brutal.
she doesn't come across as evil, but she comes across as, like, I know this sucks, but we're killing this girl for the better good. She says that the cordyceps are in the brain, and the one doctor in the world apparently believes that they could take the cordyceps and then replicate the responses and then make a cure somehow for that. And she's like, I know how you feel, but this has to be done. She does say, and I don't think this line was in the game, she says, we didn't tell her anything, so she didn't go under scared. Like we didn't.
Yeah, no.
I don't think that was in the game.
I don't think so. In the game, like they're coming through they go through a highway tunnel.
Yeah,
on their way to this hospital, and it's flooded. And it's a moment where you're not entirely sure Ellie makes it out alive. Like I believe she's under the water for quite a while. Ellie can't swim in the game, and that's a big part of the obstacles that are going through.
Yeah.
He pulls her out of the water. He doesn't get a chance to rescue her before the fireflies drop in. So in the game, it's presumed that she never gets brought up to like full consciousness, and they just like take her in to the hospital unconscious, like right off the bat. And so she just almost like in true cold fashion is like, she doesn't know at all that she's even made it. In this, like obviously a lot different. She knows that Marlene is the one who saves her. Or she knows that she's made it to the fireflies, and she's taken out. She's presumably told that she's going into surgery to start doing some tests, not told that she's not going to survive the process.
Right.
I do think it's a little odd that they were like, okay, sacrificial lamb right off the bat. We're not going to try anything at all to see if we can spare her life, because this is something that we would want to find out in case there are other immune people, or in case this does not work.
Well, that
was her to be able to stay alive. Like,
I think that was probably the most unrealistic thing about this, because by showing us how she's immune, I would think someone like Marlene would be like, we need to get a couple of women pregnant, and we need to get them bit so that we can try to replicate
like we have the method. Like we know
I
what
feel
to
like
do here.
I feel like she would have tried that, and they didn't mention any of that. So I'm surprised they didn't, because she knows why Ellie is immune. So I feel like someone like her
she would have to have a strong assumption, or at least an explanation to this doctor around what happened.
Right.
It doesn't like that didn't make sense to me in the game, that they were going to just kill her outright, and they weren't going to try. They weren't going to try blood tests or anything like that, because they hadn't done even like the most basic medical tests around this.
But at least in here, they talk about the cordyceps, and they know that that's what they need, and the cordyceps are in the brain, and that's what's going to kill her.
Yeah.
I did like leading up to this, Joel does, and just like I'm pretty sure it happened in the game too, Joel does say, we can just go. We don't have to do this. We can go back. Mm-hmm. And Ellie, while she doesn't say, I don't care what happens, just let's get this done, let's make a cure, she does say, we've come this far, and that kind of leads you to believe. That kind of leads you to believe that if she had actually been given the choice, she might have chose yes. We don't have that definitive, but
it is heavily presumed that
yes,
she did not want to live with herself, knowing that there was something that could be done, and she didn't do anything with it. So many people
around her had died.
Yeah, like everybody around her has either left or died, and that was a brutal moment.
Yep. And so Joel is told he needs to leave, and we get what I believe is the truest thing in the show that seemed most like gameplay, and it was the hospital run of him just rampaging.
Fuck that! It did not seem that most like the gameplay because Joel was able to walk through almost unhindered. He was shooting everybody dead on first shot. Sometimes, not even the first shot, but didn't have to take cover. Not a single fucking nail bomb, no smoke bombs, nothing. He's just like, nope. I'm just gonna
definitely
roll through
easier
here.
than the game, but I
No
did
fire
like
bombs.
He Flamethrower
made
weapons.
no appearances whatsoever. Fuck. He had it easy, and
but he did. The body count was there. There was a bunch of bad guys. He was picking up weapons left and right. When he was done with this gun, he'd kill somebody and pick up another gun. The viciousness was there. People were surrendering, and he's like, "Nope, you're here."
This was an important part of the show, and like I know that there were people out there who were thinking that this is like his dark side moment. It's like, you have to remember, like Joel being on the side of Joel being the good guy was out the window already. Like in episode 1, they established that Joel is not the good guy anymore. Like right off the bat, and he
might have a good heart, but he's not necessarily
he has a good heart, but like this is a guy who has spent the last 20 years in a world where he cannot think about anybody else other than his own interests at this point.
Right.
Still one of my favorite scenes in the series. Normally I don't sit down and watch shows, but I sat down and watched this scene.
It's a strong scene. And this was coming after the fact that he admitted to Ellie he tried to kill himself. He didn't see a reason to be.
Which was not in the game.
And he missed. He flinched and he missed. And she says, well, time heals all wounds. And he basically tells her, no, the only thing that I'm living for now is because he has found not necessarily a replacement, but a new reason. So
you find something new to fight for.
This whole thing was selfish. He had found a new daughter. That's not really what it is, but he had found someone that he feels is worth living for. He wasn't just going to let them kill her on the hopes that they come up with a cure. So he wrecks shop and saves her in the most brutal way. Like, I feel like he could have probably kneecapped that doctor, because I'm sure doctors are rare in the apocalypse, but he just executes that dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you were willing to kill Ellie.
He was nicer than I was in the game, though. In the game, I killed the nurses too.
Yeah, I thought he was going to.
I thought I was
around, and I'm like, oh shit. Here we go.
I thought I was gonna have to, and so I just wiped everybody out in the room.
Yeah.
But I had just gotten through having to there's you don't spare anybody in this game.
No.
In the fucking game, you don't leave anybody alive. You just fucking wipe everyone.
Right.
So yeah, he spared a couple people. Yeah, the killing of the doctor is not unimportant.
No.
That plays a part. And that's the selfish is the best way to describe it. The only thing that we missed from the game in this is his run.
Yes.
Is when in the game, the very first part of the game where he's running with Sarah in his arms after the car accident, and he's running desperately trying to save her. That was an emotional, a really rough emotional scene in the game.
Yeah.
They mirror that in the game during this scene.
Yes.
Where he's running out of the hospital. It's not like a calm exit that they had here. He's running out of the hospital. He's being shot at, and he just keeps on. He's running. His voice is breaking down. You can hear him saying, "It's like, I've got you, baby girl." He's desperate to get out of here and trying to save her life. And he's given a second chance to save his daughter. Essentially, is how is what he's feeling.
Right.
And they chose not to do that here, which I thought was probably my biggest disappointment around this episode. Is that we didn't get that mirror moment.
Yeah.
And then it ultimately leads into him getting into the elevator somehow. And then we have the moment with Marlene, which played out exactly the way that it did in the game,
with the cuts and everything. The game
even
is
the weird
cinematic.
The weird editing that they did in the game, they did here.
Yeah.
So
But
if
I
you felt
liked
jarred,
I
if you
liked
felt
it.
jarred by that when you were watching the show, you're like, whoa.
That was
No,
intentional.
that's what they did in the game too. Like it was fucking strange.
Wait, real quick though, what you were just talking, both of those scenes where he's running with her in the game, at that point, I had forgotten how to run. Like I'd crept so much in the game, in the city on the bridge. I'm like, why do I keep dying? I can't move any faster. And then I press another button. I'm like, oh, that's right, you can run.
Oh fuck, you can run.
And then by the time we get to the hospital, I'd forgot to run again, and I kept on dying. And I'm like, oh wait, is there a run button that I'm forgetting? And then
They gave
figured
you
it
a
out.
fuel tool. They gave you like one tooltip at the beginning of the game saying that when you run, you have less of a chance of getting shot.
Right.
Like
But I
enemies'
like
accuracy
crept
goes way
through the
down.
entire game. I was trying to be
Yeah.
silent, not running.
I spent very little time running as well. I tried to be as
Yeah.
sneaky as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah,
yes.
like that was a moment in the game where I was crying, like I was sobbing straight up.
Yeah, because it was powerful.
And then they skipped out on it here in the show, and I was
I
so
know.
and I was so disappointed by that.
But I loved that they kept the editing, because we see a little bit of his conversation with Marlene, and then we cut to the car, and then he's explaining things, and we cut back. And I thought that was very cinematic of the game, and that they kept it here. Just again, nods to how good the story writing and the cinematic parts of the game were. That they were written to be like a movie that you were in. So when they translated it to screen, I'm glad that somebody felt, we don't need to change it. It was good then.
Right.
Just keep it now.
And then it leads into the exact ending conversation that they have, where Ellie, it's clear she still doesn't quite believe him.
Well, she didn't believe him in the car.
She doesn't believe him in the car. She doesn't believe him on the hike.
Where's my clothes? And why are you pushing your daughter relationship so much? Why are you being so happy? Like, are you hiding something? Yeah, she cuts him off in sentence and tells him to swear.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that she's not going to let this go. This isn't the last time this conversation is going to come up. I imagine it'll be a pretty major plot point in the second series and in the second game. I haven't gotten that far.
I haven't either, and I'm really trying to avoid spoilers. I don't know. I know they've greenlit the second season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'll wait till the weeks before the second season to play the game. I think I'll wait for it to go on sale. I'm not going to wait till it hits PC because I had the PS5 now, but I'll wait till it goes on sale, and then or if they do release a remaster of it, because I think they haven't done that yet for the second one, but I'll play it probably over the summer. I can't wait to play it, and I've heard a lot of people hate it, but I don't care. I want more of these characters, and the fact that
it's got a 10 out of 10 on IGN. It's got a 93% rating on Metacritic, and it's got an 8.6 out of 10 on IMDb.
I know it was rated very well, but there was a huge fan controversy, and I kind of remember what it was about, but I'm trying not to remember because I don't want to spoil the game for myself.
Well, it has already been announced, and this was announced today, that The Last of Us Part 2 will span multiple seasons of the TV show.
But they said a few weeks ago they think it'll only be 2.
Well, there's kind of a big thing, because like part of what I found out is that it is not. The second game spans quite a bit of time.
Yes, so there's enough to cover multiple.
And Ellie's character is more of an adult in parts of it. Like she's kind of like, she's gotten like noticeably taller. Like she's more of an adult character.
Yeah.
And so in order to hold on to that, I imagine that they're probably wanting Bella Ramsey to
age up
grow up a little bit, age up a little bit.
She already looks older in her interviews for this show, by the way, too. I think.
Yeah, I mean, they could do a good part of it with makeup and just like creatively shooting the camera angles. They're not going to be worried about 3D here, so they could just camera trick it. But yeah, that was another announcement. Said that The Last of Us's Neil Druckmann said they'd only reconsider recasting Bella Ramsey if she wanted to leave,
and she does.
So they are. Yeah, she is. Well, she's given no indication that she doesn't want to. She and Pedro Pascal have great chemistry on and off screen.
Right.
So I don't see any reason for why she would want to drop out. So that would probably also, and this is actually part of what I predicted, is because like, The Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020, and we haven't really heard anything about a part 3. So we're thinking that part 2 is like the last of the story.
Yeah, Neil Druckmann a month ago said he would consider part 3 if the story came up, but he's not going to do it because the show asks for it or anything like that. He says he currently doesn't have a story for it, so he's not planning on it unless that changes.
Yeah, it's this was a story that was posted in like late February. Naughty Dog co-president Neil Druckmann addressed the chances of The Last of Us Part 3 being made amid the HBO series 9-episode run. Years after its 2 successful PlayStation games, The Last of Us franchise has seen a huge surge in popularity due to the HBO series premiere. Fans of the games waited 7 full years to receive the PlayStation sequel, and the title ultimately proved controversial due to its story and character choices, but that hasn't stopped the craving for the story to continue in Part 3, although developer Naughty Dog has avoided making promises. Basically saying there's like they're not sure that the story warrants a Part 3, and as far as what I can see. And then I closed out that article because it said spoilers ahead, so I was like, nope.
Yeah.
But I think if the story ends with part 2 and they decide that they're going to go with multiple seasons, I wouldn't be surprised to see this be a 3-season series. And if you've been watching our show for a while, you know that in my personal opinion, 3 seasons of a show in today's modern age is the best sweet spot for a TV show now.
Yeah. If you got the right crew behind it, if you get the right
people behind it, you have like the classic trilogy setup to where you can have like the happy ending in the first season where things are left open-ended enough to where you can see what happens. And then you've got a second season where things go horribly, or like you have like the big turnaround where it makes things really rough on the characters that are there. And then the third season is them overcoming that and having to find a way through to like be able to find a way to actually have like the happily ever after.
It's
like
it's Star Wars, the original series trilogy.
It is a proven formula. like there's a reason it works. And shows have a nasty habit of going past that 3-season mark, and if they're able to stay successful after that, good on them, but it doesn't happen often. There are plenty of instances where they either have to abandon the original premise of the show and try and adopt something completely new, or they end up going in other directions. Stranger Things, I think, is probably the worst offender of this so far. I feel like even 3 seasons of Stranger Things might have been too much. Like season 1 was great. Season 2 was easily the worst out of all 4 at this point. And then season 3 was actually pretty good and would have been a great ending for the series. And then like, nope, we like money. So here's another one.
It's become repetitive. Yeah.
And so The Last of Us, if they do this right and they split the second game, if it's the last game, into 2 parts, and they have a 3-part series. I don't even know if part 2 actually lends itself to this formula. I hope it does. But this would then make this show the video game based media that becomes like the best version of that we've ever seen, while at the same time laying down the baseline for what showrunners and screenwriters should aspire to for their show to run on. I was like, because if you can, like, don't get me wrong, if you can leech every bit of money out of a show that you can get for 9, 10, 11, 12 seasons or whatever you want to fucking do, great, good on you. But the fans probably aren't going to be as happy with it. There's like, you're going to end up with a Walking Dead and everybody's going to be pissed off and controversial about it. And that's how you're making your money. Or you can make a 3-season show, dead solid, fucking awesome, and have people continuously talking about it and rewatching it for years to come, because they only have to watch 3 seasons. They don't have to watch fucking 20 seasons of a show.
Right.
Like to relive that magic. They can just watch those 3 seasons and be totally satisfied. This would be a great example for that.
What I will be interested is to hear in the coming months / year is who in the crew is sticking around, because I imagine Neil Druckmann will,
Right.
but that's not necessarily a guarantee that Craig Mance will, because he did Chernobyl. That was a one and done miniseries. He's got 3 things he's attached to coming up: Borderlands, but that's just the screenplay, Cowboy Ninja Viking, and an untitled Pirates of the Caribbean project. So I could see somebody saying, well, look how closely they kept to Druckmann's material. All you need is a creative teammate for him. Doesn't have to be Craig. So I would hope that he sticks around, but he's never been attached to a multi-season thing before. But he did do 2 of the Hangover. I just want to note, like, we've been singing praises for Neil Druckmann because he deserves it. Craig Manson, he did Mazin, whatever, I'm sure I'm fucking up his name. He did Chernobyl. But before he did Chernobyl, he did the Hangover movies, he did some of the scary movies, and he did superhero movie. Yeah. I would have
never would have guessed.
No.
A repertoire
However,
like
superhero movie, as dumb as it was, I don't know if you've ever seen it. It was really stupid.
It was intentionally stupid, though.
But it got a lot of stuff right. Like it
did. It did. It predicted some shit.
And he was so in tune to the source material that it wasn't just like somebody like mocking and making fun of it. It was he was actually plugging in a lot of nerd stuff to where nerds could watch it and be like, I know the joke you're making, and it's not just making fun of me for being a nerd, it's making fun of the property. So he did well with that, and it's crazy that he's gone from that and horror parodies to being one of the, like, holy shit, he did Chernobyl, everybody wants him on their project. He's a top of the line VIP showrunner now. Dude, and that was his origin. That's crazy.
Weirdos have great ideas.
Yeah, they do.
Because weirdos have great ideas. They're great for the artistic community.
Yep.
Yeah,
I'm very happy with the show, man. I think this show, 10 out of 10. I loved it. I know we can always find gripes to bring up, especially since we played the game, but I think it was a solid show. It was fast paced, but they covered a lot of ground, and I don't think there was one episode that I was like, man, you could have cut that out and you could have given this more time, like you wasted time with something. They added in so much stuff, but it was all supplemental and it all fit, and I can't think of one thing that I would be like, you should have cut that short in order to make this thing shine more. I think it was very well balanced and a hell of a show for everything that they put into it.
I can come up with a bunch of stuff that I would change. I can come up with a bunch of stuff that I'm disappointed that they didn't bring over from the game, but it's the exact same type of complaining that people have when they're talking about a show or a movie where they read the book first. Mm-hmm. and they're disappointed that these things came out, but the movie was still excellent. It was I can't think of any examples right off the top of my head. I mean, other than the Harry Potter series, I know Cece loves the movies. She thought they did a great job, but she adores the books and she really wishes. But that's the great thing, is that those pieces of media still exist for you. So it's tough to complain without just acknowledging, like, the simplicity. It's like, yeah, well, if you liked the game better, you can still replay the game, or if you like it, like, the show is always available for you at the same time. And this show, again, like I said, this is the best video game adaptation content I've ever seen,
hands down. And somehow most people love it. Like, normally, anytime it's on the verge of being good, there's always a major faction that hates it. But I think the only people that really have gripes with this show are bigots who didn't realize what was in the game to begin with, honestly.
Right. Or people there were people who are just super anti-LGBTQ community
that were like,
you know what, and are going to boycott the entire show because of Ellie's character.
I feel like that was the only group of people that was loudly against the show. There wasn't ever a time where somebody was like, oh, they changed it too much, and now there's this sizable faction of people that really just hate the show now. I feel like it succeeded, and I can't imagine any gamer that played this game that sincerely would hate the show because it did it so well.
I would say the disinclusion of Bill in the way that he is in the game was not I don't think was to the detriment of the of my enjoyment of it, having played the game beforehand. His sequence in the game is I want to say is fairly unimportant as far as like the gameplay is concerned. But like the Bill's character is played off as kind of like a warning about who Joel could become.
Yes. We talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this show, like he is like what Joel could be hopeful to become, is like he finds somebody to keep safe to like throw his life around.
Yes.
I can see merit in the argument that change was made and that episode was pandering to that community. I can absolutely see that, but when it's done as remarkably well as it is, like it kind of doesn't matter at that point. Like even if they did do it specifically to pander, it is still like a Emmy submission quality episode.
Scott said it.
Episode 3 made me sob uncontrollably.
It did with me too. It did with me too.
Yeah.
And there were some people that said that they played the game and didn't realize they were a couple. When I heard the word partner, I always assumed that. I just assumed that.
Dude, the game went darker, bro.
It did go darker.
So much darker.
And it made sense. And they kind of hinted to that in the show. They were like, you thought that the government was Nazis before all this happened. You're a conspiracy theorist. And I did kind of like that, especially.
That's where I thought it was going.
I know.
Like, as soon as they were having that argument out in the front yard, it was just like, here it goes. This is how it goes.
I'm not trying to go too political right now, but I did just see a report where now more than ever, people on different party lines won't date each other. Like back in the day, people could find common grounds, but now there's so much extremity on each side that people just like a Democrat would never date a Republican or whatever. So I did kind of like seeing two guys that had not been for the apocalypse. They probably wouldn't have gotten together because he was like, you were a conspiracy nut job before this happened, and you basically just got lucky that the apocalypse happened and you were able to shine. But I thought they were setting up what happened in the game, and thankfully they didn't go that route, and they gave us this other alternative. And I didn't hate it for it. I liked it. I thought it was great. I thought it was beautiful.
For those who didn't play the game, Bill assumes at this point in the game, like Joel and Ellie find them, and he's in like more of a city escape of the town, not in a well cared for area. But they find Bill, and Bill has assumed that Frank is now his mortal enemy, and is like stealing supplies, causing some havoc. Whereas in reality, towards the end of the sequence with Bill, they find Frank hanging in a home where he decided to end his life. And if you don't search that house at all, you wouldn't find this out. But like Joel ends up finding a note that Frank leaves behind, specifically addressed to Bill, telling him that he always hated him, that he never liked him, which Bill was kind of assuming was part of it. But you find this note immediately after seeing Bill's reaction to seeing Frank there, and that's kind of when it like comes home. It's like, okay, he actually really loved this person.
Yeah.
And this was like a more brutal ending to them all. Then you find that note, and your heart's even more fucking broken up. Yeah. And the note is referenced in the show, in the letter that Bill leaves to Joel, telling him, like, I never liked you, but in a much nicer way, honestly. In a much nicer way.
Yeah.
To answer your earlier questions, Ellie's Emmy episode is obviously episode 8, without question. I'm having a hard time deciding on which one is Joel's. Joel's episode is pretty tough, but I feel like episode 1 is a pretty strong contender for him. And then for the show as a whole, episode 8 or episode 3.
Yeah.
But I feel like episode 8 would be the better choice because it showcases the show's main characters.
Yeah.
But
those are the two strongest episodes of the show for sure.
Yeah. If you were, I don't know what the rules are. If you had to submit multiple episodes, I would submit 3 and 8.
Mm-hmm.
If you only had the option of 2 max or something like that, obviously, like I would submit the entire show because that would make the most sense. You get the whole context of it and you see how this whole thing makes sense. But yeah, it would be tough for me to say that like Nick Offerman deserves like a best supporting actor for this because he's only in 1 episode.
They've done it before for less, but
sure. But I absolutely see him and Frank's actor, whose name escapes me at the moment, taking awards from the show. Maybe not direct acting awards or something like that, but like because there's plenty of award shows out there where they will pull something. Like I have no doubt in my mind that they'll pull something off.
Yeah.
And it's well deserved. But yeah, an Emmy for best television series is in this show's future.
Yeah.
No question in my mind. Like if they, I don't know what all they'd be up against at this moment in time, because like this show is not going to count towards 2022. It's going to count towards 2023. So we won't know until this time. We won't know until this time next year.
Yeah.
So and there's a lot that can happen in the next year. So not entirely sure, but man, are they coming out of the gate strong? So
they are.
Shows that come out this year are going to be like, fuck, we got to compete with that. God damn it.
I know. And I think to wrap this up, I think one of the things I remember right before this show started, there was a bunch of people saying, man, Pedro Pascal is perfect casting. He's going to nail this. But Bella Ramsey, I saw people calling her ugly. I saw people saying she doesn't look like the character. I saw people saying she can't act for nothing. Now that we've come to the end of the show, I love Pedro Pascal. I think he was great for this role. But this is Ellie's show. This is Bella's show.
She stole the show.
If there's anybody getting a win out of this show, it's gonna be her.
Pedro Pascal probably could not be more happy for her.
Sure.
It was like he didn't gonna feel jealous about it at all.
Yeah, he's got plenty of roles to go for, but
he would be happy to have her take this show from him.
And when they brought Ashley Johnson in as the mom, I could see it. I could see Bella Ramsey being her offspring. They kind of look alike, you know.
They do.
So I don't know what the hell you're talking about saying, the people saying that she didn't look like the character or she doesn't fit the character. She extremely fit the character. This is going to be a highlight of her career, and her career's really just starting, so props for her and her agent for getting her this role because she's killing it.
I can see where people were upset because she didn't look like the character, because they did they put such an effort in making Pedro Pascal look like Joel.
Yeah.
Like I can see where they were hoping that it was going to look a little bit more like them, but at the same time, I'm just like, who cares?
Yeah, and they gave her the shirt and they gave her the outfits later on. I felt like it blended really well with the game.
Yeah, I think they did. I think they did a great job. It was like, there was one other like super emotional moment for me where I was feeling like, I can't remember what episode it is. I think it's episode 6, where Joel reunites with Tommy, and that was another episode where I felt like, oh, that might be another one of Joel's episodes, but for like award contention, because he
does give a strong speech in that episode.
We saw a moment from him there that we don't see in the game quite the same way.
That was the panic attack episode and his confession that he's older and he's tired and he's going deaf, and
they have the moment between him and Ellie, which was another powerful part from the game, where like she just tells him, it's like, you're the only person who's actually still around. It was like, who actually sticks with me. And I think they did better with that in the show than they did in the game, because in the game, like, they have the same dialogue where he says, it's like, you're sure as hell not, it's like, I'm sure as hell not your dad. You're not my kid. But in the game, like they end up on horseback together, and there's just like, all right, yeah, I'm taking her to Colorado. Yeah. Whereas in the show, he's like, all right, you deserve a choice. Like he actually they explained that a little bit better. But again, that was another great moment, and in a show full of great moments.
Yep. Yep.
I can't wait to jump into the next game. I want to play that. I've got a lot of ground to cover on other shit before I can, but thankfully I believe that I've got a good bit of time, probably 2 years I would estimate before the next season comes out for the show. If not like 1.5. I imagine that if anything, they've probably already started, if it's depending on the time span that it's covering. I'm not sure.
Right.
That's I look forward to talking about this show during award season this time next year. Because I imagine it's going to clean up. I think the Emmys have already gone by, but
I'm kind of scared, because it's gonna be a while. Because when I think about who would talk about this, it'd be the Emmys and the Golden Globes, right? And that's in the fall, and that'll be for 22. So we won't really be talking about big awards for this show until fall of next year. So wouldn't the
no
awards...
they'd be talking about this and like the end of 2022 this coming year.
Is that how it works? Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason I thought it was the full previous year.
Because anything that they don't cover in like the last quarter of this year will be talked about. Okay. Or anything that happens in the last quarter of this year will be covered by 2024 show.
Okay. I got that wrong then. Well, I'm
believe
excited.
So that's quite a long period of irrelevance to let them have before
HBO though.
Back in.
Bam. You're killing it. You're killing it. Oh, one other joke I wanted to make, and then I really do got to go. It's kind of a joke. HBO. I love how they went from sex quota per their shows to they're almost becoming the birth quota. Like, think about the major shows that HBO has put out. How many birth scenes have we had between this and Game of Thrones?
It was so funny because in the post episode thing, like Ashley Johnson says, like, this was my first ever birth scene. Yeah. And it's like, of course it was with HBO. Who the fuck else would it have been with?
We got 2 in House of the Dragon. We got 1 in this. And I'm like, I mean, I guess I don't need the gratuitous sex scenes, so switch it out with birth scenes. But like,
no,
I've never seen so many birth scenes.
In this one, we got the introduction to a gay sex scene and yet another birth, and another graphic one too. Like they're like, you're gonna cut the cord. Probably the freshest looking, like probably the most newborny looking newborn I've ever seen in a show too. Like most of the time they come out in the show and then it's like, bitch, that baby's like a year old.
Right.
Right.
But good job, HBO. You're still killing it. And they have to, man. They've got things like Apple TV on their heels, coming out with some really good shit. But HBO has always been the standard, and
they had a lot to make up for at the end of Game of Thrones. And if this is the kind of stuff that they're doing, like House of the Dragon, don't get me wrong, it was good. House of the Dragon was good. Solid. It doesn't make up for Game of Thrones for me. It wasn't that good.
But it certainly brought a lot of people back.
This is the kind of shit that would bring me back. Yeah. Like this would be the show that I would have, like, I get my HBO Max for free because I have a cable subscription. But if I had started up HBO Max on a paid service, specifically to watch this show, I would probably leave it on, being like, okay, this is the kind of shit HBO is doing now. Okay, fuck. All right, I got to keep this going.
And this is appointment viewing. You can't wait for a couple weeks and binge it.
This is the type of show that those streaming services are wanting for their platforms. Yes. So, well done to them.
Well done. All right. I'm tired. I got to go.
Yeah, I have to go to the bathroom. Something fierce. Thank you again, Nerfherders, for watching this episode. If you like this video, hit the like button down below. If you dislike it, hit the dislike button. Be honest, we can take it. Hit us up in those comments, though, and let us know what you guys thought. What did you guys think of The Last of Us? What did you guys think of the Oscars this year? Do all of that stuff. Once again, I'm dating this video, but I don't care. If you're going to be at Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City this weekend, you can find us there. Come say hi. it will be, I guarantee you will be the first person that we don't know to show up and say, hey, I watched Nerfherders Assemble on YouTube. You will blow our fucking minds. And it will be an incredible moment for everyone. Well, hopefully for you too. It'll blow my mind for sure. Find us on social media at Nerfherders Assemble or at Nerfherders Crew on Twitter. Hit us up. Send us what you want us to react to. Send us what you want us to talk about. Be a part of the conversation. Until next time.
See ya.
Have a good one.